The Head Coach Isaac Collins Show. Here's Dan Flickinger and Seton Hill Head Coach Isaac Collins.
And we continue live on Griffin's Game Day, counting you down to kickoff 2015 as Seton Hill takes on the Shippensburg Red Raiders. Dan Flickinger back with you, and it is time for the Head Coach Isaac Collins Show, edition number 1 of the 2015 season. And it's brought to you by our friends at Dino's Sports Lounge on Route 30 in Greensburg and Latrobe. A player interview, our Griffin's Player Spotlight coming up with Christian Carter. Coach, here we are. You can feel the excitement in the air right now. There's nothing quite like opening day, whether you're talking about college football, high school football, NFL, it doesn't matter. I know you guys are really excited after hitting each other since the spring. You finally go and get to hit some Red Raiders here today.
No, it is exciting. Our kids are excited. I mean, it's been a long off season from the 5 a.m. runs back in the winter to spring ball to the summer training to preseason camp. So just to finally be on game day is really, really exciting.
I asked, I'm going to be asking Christian Carter the same thing, Coach, but talk about complacency setting in a little bit when you're hitting each other for so long. I guess it's kind of a natural thing. I mean, again, you got spring ball, you got camp. Over the summer, I know guys were practicing against each other. You have the scrimmages. As a coaching staff, do you kind of have to fight against that a little bit?
You really do. We talk a lot about mental toughness, and it really takes a player that has mental toughness to be able to endure the offseason. And we try to spin it when we get to game day that this is what you're working for. This is why you do what you do, why you lift all those weights, as they say. But certainly for us, I'm excited to kind of see, because it's hard to gauge whether the amount of time we've been going against each other, have we really improved in some areas, or have guys kind of figured out the route pattern or the play that they're running or the blitz that's coming. So it'll be interesting to see them playing against someone else that's going to be a little bit different than what we do.
Well, you've been through spring ball and, of course, camp and the 2 scrimmages. What can everybody expect from the 2015 Griffins coming in?
Well, I'm excited about just the athleticism that we've seen on both sides of the ball in the kicking game. I'm excited about our offensive line up front. Just they seem to be coming together. We seem to be more physical there. Excited about what I've seen in the defensive line. We had a couple new faces there, but those guys have really picked up the system and coming along pretty well. So overall, just excited to see, because I think we're a bigger team. I think we're a faster team. I think athletically, we're a cut above where we were a year ago. So it'll be interesting to see if we can apply those things and do the little things during the course of a ball game to have a little bit more success than we have in the past.
Before we talk about your returners, Coach, can we talk about the freshman class and how they've kind of handled everything that's been thrown at them? The interesting part is, when the freshmen come on, especially the ones that live outside the area, don't have a chance to get here until you guys actually report. There's a lot thrown at them right away. I mean, they only have camp and the 2 scrimmages to really get ready. And I know there is a number that probably will be redshirted or not play a whole lot, but how has the freshmen handled getting everything thrown at them this year, and have you been pleasantly surprised at some of them? I
have been. I mean, it's been a really good bunch, and I kind of gauge it a little bit differently than probably some people. I look at it, how soon are those guys getting the meetings? What do they look like when they're walking in a position? Where are they sitting when they get in those meetings? And it's been kind of neat to watch guys kind of sit up front, to watch guys show up early for team meetings, watch guys show up early for position meetings, watch guys kind of interact in the dining hall. We did, a nice little skit deal during preseason. We did the battle lip sync deal, so we really got to see some of the personalities of the different guys on the team come out, which was really, really neat. So just being able to do that, and not to mention just when you get to the field, just watching some of these guys run, some that we think will be ready to help us this year, some that we're going to be really excited about in the future in terms of being able to redshirt them and what we think they're going to be by the time they're seniors. So everything that we've talked about in every interview we've had is right on pace with this recruiting class. There's size, there's depth, there's athletic ability, and overall just tremendous character guys.
Did you step in at all and get involved in the lip sync, or is it just all the freshmen?
Well, it was the whole team.
The whole team? Okay.
We broke it up by, we had a position battle, and then we had by class. So the freshmen battled the sophomores and the juniors battled the seniors. So it was kind of a neat deal. It was a great way to kind of end camp.
Well, who won?
Well, the seniors won. That's under protest by the juniors, and the sophomores beat the freshmen. So it was kind of a neat little deal that way. But we had a little fun with it.
Year 3 of the program for you, Coach. We saw so much improvement from year 1 to year 2. 2 more wins from year 1 to year 2. Last year, Seton Hill had 3 wins. Your first year, 1 win, but more than just the wins. I know that's the bottom line, but you guys were pretty much competitive in every game last year, which was not the case in your first year and certainly years prior before you got here. Talk about where the program is right now.
I think as we have built depth and as we've gotten guys that have been in the system for a few years and starting to understand the things that we need to do, we're definitely seeing strides that should produce wins. I mean, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. We talk to our guys all the time about football's fun, but the fun is in the winning. And we're kind of at that point now where we need to turn the corner. We know last year there were a few games that we let get away, that we had some opportunities, and really what our focus was in the offseason was finding a way in that late in the third or in the fourth quarter to be able to kind of win some of those close ball games and not have the collapses that we had. I mean, we had a stretch of about 3 or 4 games that was the most amazing thing, that right around about 8 minutes in the fourth quarter, things would just fall apart. So we kind of focused on emptying the tank, which is our theme, and we did some things in the offseason to try to help our guys be a little bit mentally tougher, to strain themselves a little bit longer. But I think anytime you're trying to make progress as a program, it starts with the character things you're doing off the field, and I think our guys are doing a tremendous job in the classroom, as you will see with the GPA climb and with the retention, with less issues that we have to deal with, things that we've kind of talked about. So those are the things that I think are going to lead to us being able to be successful on the field, but we still have to prove it on the field.
And one of the things I think that shows progress is how many players you had in camp this year. 93 players, your most in your 2 years now, going into your third year. What does that allow you guys to do? I know that a big thing for you that you've been talking about is redshirting guys and allowing them to go through the weight program if they're not quite ready yet, and then you have them for 4 years on the field. I'm sure that's a huge thing.
No, it definitely is a big part of what we're trying to do. Obviously, the numbers help the university's enrollment, so that's exciting. But for us, just being able to practice, we had our first scrimmage. We had 20 guys that were banged up and couldn't go, and we still had a 4-quarter scrimmage. In the past, you get 20 guys, and then basically you're canceling the scrimmage. So I think the development of the overall team to be able to do some things, I think the way we practice, is a little bit different this year than it was a year ago, just because we have numbers and we're able to kind of develop some guys. We're able to take a longer look at some of our freshmen just because we had more depth in the program. But all those things lead to just kind of a healthy program.
Seton Hill was picked to finish 6th out of the 8 teams in the PSAC West in the preseason coaches poll. Coach, I know it doesn't mean anything, and I know you're certainly not celebrating, being chosen 6th, if it does mean anything to anybody. But I don't know, does that kind of show that there is some progress, because this is the first time that Seton Hill wasn't picked to finish in last place for quite a while?
Well, I think so. I think the folks in the PSAC West are realizing that we're a program that's on the rise. I think our kids understand it. We talk to them in reference to preseason rankings. We tell them it's just a start point, and where you want to finish is you want to be number 1. So our mission is always going to be that, regardless of where they pick us. But it's nice to know that your peers are thinking that your program is improving, that you're showing some progress, and now we got to just find a way to get that done on the scoreboard.
When you look at your team, Coach, where do you see strengths coming into the opener here today?
Without a doubt, I think our leadership is going to be probably the best that it's been, and not necessarily that there's better leaders than we've had in the past. I think we're just going to have more of them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to lead to us being able to hopefully bounce back when adversity hits. That's the one question mark you're going to have. I think athletically we got some talent. I think we got some speed. I think we're bigger, stronger, and faster. But when you fall behind a touchdown or two, how you react, or if it's in the fourth quarter and you've been up the entire game and all of a sudden they take the lead, how do we react as a football team? We go out and make a bunch of mistakes early. How do you bounce back? So those are things that we can't really answer, but that's what I'm excited to see, because I think we have the ability to be a good football team. Now we got to figure out if we got the mental toughness and the focus to go out and have some success. And if we're able to do that, I think it could be an exciting season.
We start talking about some specific guys, and one of the ones that I wanted to talk to you about, Coach, was a guy that flipped over to the offensive line is now your starting right guard in Jamarius Richardson, who was a pretty good defensive lineman for you, and now he's going to be starting at right guard. How has that process gone with him, and how long ago did the change happen with Jamarius?
We made it early in camp when we realized we were losing some guys, and Darius might not come back. We had to make some decision to kind of solidify that group. I didn't want it to be like it was year one where we had 5 guys and you were holding on. So we shuffled some guys around. We moved the tight end, the tackle, and Nick Esposito. He was one of the guys who looked at the defensive line that we felt was pretty deep. We had some young guys that were doing some really good things. So we felt like if we were going to make the move, let's make it now so we'd have a couple scrimmages and an opportunity to really kind of get Jamarius where we thought he can be. Now, ironically, this actually took place last fall. We were running scout team. We were low on numbers, and Jamarius jumped in at center and started snapping the ball, and Coach Eager caught it on film. It was like, wow. So it was always in the back of our mind, right, if we ever needed to. Athletically, he could do it. He's a strong kid. He's a tough kid. And most teams that at our level that are building offensive line, they love having those guys that play D-line because they know there's going to be a toughness and grittiness to them and an athletic skill set to them that is going to obviously benefit them being an offensive lineman. So we're excited about the move. He's still got a long way to go in terms of understanding the calls and doing things a little bit differently, but athletically we think that's going to help him get through the first few ball games until he gets his feet underneath him.
Coach mentioned Darius, and he was talking about Darius Joe Carzada, who played as a freshman 2 seasons ago. Last year, he was your starting left tackle, played 2 games, and then unfortunately had a personal issue where he had to go back to Great Britain. You were hoping, he's on the roster, you're hoping to have him back this year, but he's having trouble getting back into the country. What's the process at right now with him?
Right now, we just spoke to Darius the other day, and unfortunately, we're going to have to wait till the spring on him. Just couldn't get the paperwork processed with his green card and the things he needed to do to get back in the country to be able to take classes here. So we're excited. We think that this thing will wrap up hopefully in the next few weeks, and he'll be good to go come January. And he's got 3 years of eligibility, so we're excited to get him back.
With the moving parts, Coach, talk about the run game. It wasn't where you wanted it to be last year. Now, you didn't let up many sacks at all. I believe the 3rd lowest in the PSAC after giving up the most in the PSAC 2 seasons ago, which was an incredible turnaround. But the run game, I know how important that is to you, but without Darius coming back and some moving parts, is that still going to be a challenge?
It's going to be a challenge, but we're excited about the guys that we have. We've been working a lot more 2-back, which is I think is an element that adds to your ability to be able to run the ball physically. So we've been working at the run game a little bit more, and I've been talking with Coach Eager, but just having a plan on how we can change up our run game, each week to put ourselves in a position where we can get the ball into some talented running backs. I think Stout and Patrick Jackson, Isaac Murray are 3 backs that'll be able to help us be very successful. We got to find different ways to get them the ball and have some success early on, because I think it'll open up our pass game as well.
You mentioned how important the leadership is to your team and how that's a big strength for you, and it's amazing that that's the case with such a big leader graduating in Tyler Zimmer. I joked with Coach Collins on the Coaches Show last Sunday about every time we start a preseason interview, first guy we mention is Tyler Zimmer. He has now graduated. He was an All-American linebacker here at Seton Hill. I know he was banged up a lot last year, but tough to lose a leader, but as you mentioned, you have a lot of other guys filling in those spots. Not only leadership, but also on the field. I know you have a young linebacking crew, a core that needs a lot to prove this year. Kind of talk about where that area is right now.
We're excited. The guys that are going to be starting for us, Nick Boyden, Guts, and Dexter Williams are all guys that have playing experience. It was fun to watch them in the spring because they were kind of starting to feel their way a little bit. And I think part of being a linebacking core is like with anything, it's about chemistry. Watching those guys in preseason camp, there's a speed element to them. There's communication going on. There's a lot of the things that you need to have them be successful. But this is going to be their first time playing together, the 3 of them. So it'll be interesting to see today how they work. But we're excited. We think athletically that they're going to have a chance to help us in some areas. Where they're going to be lacking is just some of the experience that the guys they're replacing had. So we're excited to see what they can do. And there's a couple other young linebackers that'll probably show up from time to time that we're hoping can figure it out as well.
2 senior linebackers graduate, Tyler Zimmer and Chase Parker as well. Also, a returning senior linebacker, Tim Johnson, going to have to be redshirted due to injury, so he will not, unfortunately, play this year. So certainly a young group there. Speaking of leadership, our Griffin Player Spotlight is with Christian Carter. What a great leader that he's been, even probably as an underclassman as well, Coach. And I thought it was so impressive. It really goes to show how great his leadership is. A guy that doesn't start, doesn't get a ton of playing time compared to some other guys, was still voted on as a captain. I think that's awesome to see.
Well, we talk a lot inside of our program about leadership and doing the little things outside of what you do on the field. And I think he, is definitely the poster child for that. He gets involved, with so many things on campus. He's done a great job of pushing our FCA agenda and making sure that, we're developing that program. He's been truly a blessing. And from the very first time that I met him, he's had a smile on our face. He's the guy that comes in that you can see is very mature, very intelligent, and some of the things he says really kind of puts a smile on your face. So certainly from a leadership standpoint, we're excited to have him, and we really kind of talk a lot about it's not what you can do athletically that makes a difference inside of our program. It's what you're going to do as a man, and part of being a man is being able to step out of your comfort zone and play to your strengths, and I think he does a great job of that. He knows he's not the fastest, not the strongest, but he goes to work every single day. He looks for opportunities to make our football program better. When you see him in a dining hall, you wouldn't be surprised to see him at two different tables, kind of holding court and talking to guys and lifting up freshmen and bringing up things of concern to the staff. So definitely a guy that, may not show up in the stat book, we're certainly going to miss, when he graduates.
Let's talk about your quarterback position. You return two guys. Andrew Jackson graduates, but you return Christian Strong, who started a number of games down the stretch, and also Dan Petrangelo, who came in to give you guys a spark a lot last year. And I know those two were sharing snaps in camp, and I also know that Dan banged up his knee. Where is that position right now coming into today, Coach?
Well, coming in today, it's going to be kind of a game time decision, and I hate to sound like all the other, FBS coaches that have been holding off on it.
You're a coach, we'll let you slide.
It really is a game time decision. We think in fairness, we kind of owed Dan the opportunity. He had won the job early in camp, got injured. Christian stepped up, so it really was going to be kind of let's see how he feels, and if we feel like he can go, then there's a good chance he may start for us today. If we feel like Christian's going to give us the better chance to be successful because Dan's not quite ready, then we would do that as well. So it's definitely going to be a game time decision.
Coach, one of the players that you lost, we talked about some of the graduating players. I also want to throw in a graduating player, Arthur Sapdong, big loss for you on the defensive line, even though you do certainly have depth there. But one of the guys that you lost to a transfer was F.J. Williams, a starting wide receiver, one of the best in the conference, broke some records last year for you. And I guess I can put it that it was kind of mutually split ways. F.J. transferred to Mercyhurst. Can you kind of talk about that? And I'm sure it was kind of difficult to go through for everybody when it happened.
It really was because, FJ's a great kid. He's well-liked inside of the program. He has guys that he played, JUCO ball with that are still on our roster. But there's certain things inside of our program that we talk a lot about every single day, and they're non-negotiables. And when there's conflict with the non-negotiables, and it wasn't in a legal way or any of those ways, just in terms of a personal feeling that he had, I just kind of make it simple for him is that, look, this is the way that I was raised. My mom told me we're going to live by my rules, and, until you're outside of my house, these are the rules of the house, and you have to live by them. And it wasn't so much that he, didn't want to live by him. He just didn't know if he could buy into it 100%. And the concern was, as I shared with him when he finally made the decision, is the worst thing that can happen to you is you come back and tell me, yeah, I'm going to do these things, and then week 2 I'm having to remove you from the football program because you couldn't execute certain things inside of our program. So it was sad to see him go. It was tough for me. It was tough for our coaching staff. And it had more to do with him as a kid and a person than it was his athletic ability. Yes, there's some things that he brought to the table, but we felt like we got talent in the program. We felt like we got guys that can go out and do some things. So it was just really, you kind of made an investment in a young man, and you'd like to see it through. You like to be able to see the end product, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do that.
Let's talk about the Shippensburg Red Raiders, Coach. You guys played them tough last year. Maybe a key fumble, that doesn't happen. Who knows what happens at the end of the game against them at Offutt Field. historically have had a really good offense. What have you seen from them on film coming into this season?
I think it's going to be a little bit challenging for us to kind of, gauge the type of football team because they got some new faces. They got some young guys that are running around. I can tell you from a program standpoint, just well coached, especially on offense. They do some really dynamic things in terms of being able to get the ball into their playmakers' hands, and then defensively just, watching those guys. I know they graduated a few guys, but they just seem to play so hard. They're very sound. They believe in what they do, so I think the challenge for us early on is really going to be to try and figure out some of their new personnel and how they're trying to use it. We don't think the scheme's going to change all that much. So offensively, we got to try and find our matchups early to see what we can do to have some success. I think we got to be able to run the ball, and I know we'll get into that a little bit later. But just watching them on film, it's a case where I think this may be a transition year for them. Where they're coming off of a great run, being in the playoffs, all that good stuff. Lose a great quarterback, still kind of feeling their way. So I think a lot of it's going to fall on their quarterback's shoulders. Can he kind of do some of the things that their quarterbacks in the past have done? So that's where defensively we got to make sure that we make them as uncomfortable as we possibly can while maintaining a sound box to defend their run game.
Coach, can't wait to get going, and looking forward to our chats every week, even though it's extremely hot in the room that we're recording this interview right now. We got the new backdrop. Jason Green, Sports Information Director, ordered that up, so we're ready to go, and you're looking at a lot slimmer. Not that you were big, Coach, but we talked about that at the coaches show too. You put a little Mandate on the coaching staff. Yeah,
we had to get the staff working out. Wanted to make sure that we're protecting our health, but also keeping us fresh for a long season. And the guys have bought in. It was a little bit of a struggle in the beginning because they weren't real happy about it. But now, if I'm not down there on time, they're going, Coach, where are you? So it's been exciting, and I think the wives and the girlfriends are very appreciative of it as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure. And you worked off the wings that you had on Sunday.
Oh, I definitely got after it to get those wings out.
Coach, thanks a lot for your time, and again, so much looking forward to seeing you guys play here today and working with you again this season.
Absolutely.
That's Coach Isaac Collins of Seton Hill Griffins. Coming back after this, our Griffins Game Day pregame show continues as we talk with Christian Carter. This is our Griffins Player Spotlight, and we'll have that for you coming up in a moment. The Coach Collins Show, heard and seen every week on our pregame show, is brought to you by Dino's Sports Lounge in Greensburg and Latrobe. We'll talk with Christian Carter next.